Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Sasti, and I'm here. I would like to present about my journal paper entitled "The Arab Hadrami Diaspora as a Village for Religious Tourism: A Case Study of an Arab Village in Pasar Kliwon, Surakarta." And here's my paper content. There are introduction, research question, theoretical framework, finding and discussion, and the last is conclusion. So I will just start with the introduction and I will just write it. Uh, it has become a habit to leave their hometown as something done by some Hadrami Arabs. They generally work as preachers and traders. Where they live, they try to establish kinship by marrying residents or by approaching Muslim aristocrats so that they can occupy important positions in society. And the Arab Hadrami diaspora is spread all over Indonesia, including the city of Surakarta. In the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon, the diaspora of Arab Hadrami have a tradition in the arts and culture that they brought from their hometown that will become an identity for them. And here's the research question, that is how does the Arab Hadrami diaspora identity affect the formation of the Arabian village of Pasar Kliwon to become a religious tourism village? And here's the theoretical framework. I used three theoretical framework that are identity theory, concept of diaspora, and also concept of religious tourism. And here's the main finding, that is this is the first main finding, that is migration of Arab Hadrami to Indonesia and settled in Surakarta. So I will just explain it. The arrival of the Arab Hadrami people can be traced back to the early of 5th century BC in the archipelago. They trade and come back with crops that are going to be traded elsewhere. The area where people live in Hadramaut was then known as Arab Village. The Arab village of Pasar Kliwon in Surakarta is one of the examples. Pasar Kliwon was formerly a good selling place in the Pasar Kliwon that was held every day, and the community is obligated to live in special location that a captain has determined and led, and it was then intended that the Dutch East Indies government, who feared Islam and Arab descent, could easily monitor them. And this is the second main finding, that is the identity of the Arab Hadrami diaspora, which influenced the formation of the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon to become a village for religious tourism. So I also just explain it. And with the identity of the Arab Hadrami diaspora in the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon, there are several well-known scholars, not only in Indonesia but also in several countries like Singapore, Yemen, and Africa. Apart from being spreaders of Islam, the Hadrami Arab have long been known to have an identity as traders, and it became a commonplace if in the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon itself become a trading center area. Some of the influence of diaspora identity of the Arab Hadrami on the formation of the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon become a village for religious tourism can be also seen from the cultural aspect brought by the Hadrami from their hometown in Hadramaut, namely Zapin dance. And in order to maintain the existence of people of the Arab descent who live in the Arab village of Pasar Kliwon, they still apply in the Kamo's marriage. And here's the discussion. The first discussion is the Arab Hadrami identity. So based on the finding of migration of Arab Hadrami to Indonesia and settled in Surakarta, they use identity theory is because there are several things in this case that in line with the theory that I use. For example, Arab Hadrami has a habit of leaving their hometown to migrate to other countries for reasons of improving their economic situation and spreading Islam. And the second is the Arab Hadrami is said to have a diaspora. So when it viewed from the concept of diaspora, the Arab Hadrami is said to have a diaspora because they have migrated to all the corners of the world, without exception Indonesia, and they have been around for decades and have even give birth and have several offspring, but they can still be said to have a close ties to their country origin. And last is the concept of religious tourism in the Arab village of Pasakaliwan, Surakarta. So the concept of religious tourism is used in this case because based on what is in the Arab village of Pasakaliwan, Surakarta, it's very potential to make the area religious tourism supporting factors such as the level of community religiosity in the area around the uh, Pasakliwan market. Okay, and the next is a conclusion. So I will just write it also. After conducting research in Kampung Arab Pasakliwan, it can be concluded that the strong identity of Arab Hadrami ancestor as a traders and propagators of Islam greatly influenced the formation of Kampung Arab Pasakliwan to become a religious tourism village. And the assistant of several well-known scholars who came from the Arab village of Pasakliwan made pilgrims often flocked the Arab village of Pasakliwan for pilgrimage to the grave of scholars or on religious tours by following routine studies at the Asigaf Mosque and also the Riyadh Mosque. And we have come to the end session of the presentation, and thank you for your attention and also thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.